So I'm going for a walk right now. Yeah, it's a nice sunny day, and I feel really bad that I wake up and it's not. I don't feel perfect. I feel like my brain is like, just something that sits in my head or something. I like to think of like an oyster, and how it's got the gooey stuff in the middle. That's sort of what my brain feels like, just like something that just sits in like in a lump in my head or something. So, so I'm like, oh, I better go out for a walk and get some blood rushing so that I can say that I actually feel like I'm alive today. Because sometimes you just wake up and you're like, oh, why did I wake up? I feel so bad. It's like not funny, but when you go out and go for a walk and it's like, oh, this makes me feel a little bit better. So I haven't had breakfast yet. I just snacked on some apricot things and then I said, that's it. I'm going for a walk. I haven't been for a walk without having breakfast in quite a long time, because usually I need that energy to keep me feeling balanced before I go out for a walk. Because basically all my issues started when I had my heart stop and start, and then I've been like doing little tricks to make me feel energized. So, including carrying water wherever I go. Literally, like sometimes, like my heart would feel like it's going to stop while I'm walking, and so I take out my water, have a drink, and have that sort of serve as a function to keep my heart pumping, sort of thing. So that sort of was one of my tricks. And another was to eat before I go out for a walk. Otherwise I used to feel like my legs would just collapse, and I'd feel like I'd want to collapse because I just don't have any energy and stuff. So and I know like a lot of people who haven't even known me or lived with me will say, oh, I've always had like some eating problems and things, but it's not true at all. It comes from like my heart stopping and starting. I don't ever have any eating problems. I just sometimes follow diets and sometimes I don't. So one of my strongest diets was a wheat-free, yeast-free, sugar-free, dairy-free kind of plan. So I was eating like corn and rice instead of bread and pasta, and I was eating like what was I eating? Honey instead of sugar, or maple syrup instead of sugar. And instead of peanut butter, I was eating almond butter and macadamia butter, which is like a spread as well, and tahini, and stuff like that. So I was substituting one thing for another, and it looks really whacked out because you're not necessarily just going down the street and having a burger and fries and things. You're like going down the street and finding some place that sells like salad, or I used to have chicken salad a lot actually when I went out. I used to be like always getting a chicken salad instead of a burger. That was sort of one of my stronger substitutes and things. So it's not as though I was ever really unhealthy in any way. It's just that I used to follow like that kind of diet for a little while, but all the leg collapsing and thing, like all the feeling of collapsing didn't come from not taking food. It was from this heart thing that after my heart stopped, and so I was always like, oh, I need to have something to eat before I go out, and then I when I was out, I'd feel really hungry really quickly, and I'd be like, oh, I've got to make myself feel full, otherwise I'll collapse. and anyway, and so I used to take vitamins with me to suck on them when I walked. I used to buy little aniseed lollies to suck on when I walked. I used to buy these little things, sometimes jubes, which is an old little lolly that I used to buy every now and again. So that sort of helped to keep. I really loved the vitamin C, especially though, because that sort of helped to keep me energized when I was like going for walks and things. And I was like, so I haven't been out for a walk without having breakfast for a really long time, because I just got into the habit of eating before I left and sucking on things on the go and things. So, but today I am, which is a very rare occasion. So I feel pretty full and I feel pretty good. Closer to when I started having like this heart murmurs and heart things, it's like, I couldn't go anywhere, not even a block. But now it's like, I'm doing it. Going out for a walk around the block. All this is like, all the transitions from being struggling physically to being able to do stuff has been a huge leap, but no one really feels like it is. Only I feel like it is, and it's like, like generally, I guess a lot of people's perceptions of me is like, oh, I didn't do anything, oh, I'm lazy and things, but, for me, like, just doing something is like, your big achievement, in a way, because, closer to the time, I couldn't do, like, a walk around the block was like hell, and you're really struggling to push yourself through, and it's like, but now it's like pretty easy. So, and traveling's a lot easier, and working's still hard for me though. Like, I always want to work slow, and I don't feel like I don't really have a job that I can do for a long time. Like, I'm struggling to do a job all the time, so I'm trying to transition here and there into other things, but nothing really works to pick me up except for this certain line of work. And I'm like, well, it's like, and every time like I get an interview, like I feel scared that I'm not going to be able to do the job. So I go into the interview, I pretty much say, oh yeah, I can do everything, yeah, like the way I'm feeling today, yeah, I can do everything. But then I do it, and it's like I've got a feeling or two, and it makes me feel like I'm screwing up, and I end up getting fired pretty quickly and stuff. So, so I haven't really got work down, but I've got walking down, going to the stores down, traveling for 30 minutes or more on a train down. So, well, that's sort of like huge achievements, because I used to literally shake and look like I was going to have a heart attack, just sitting 10 minutes on a tram or a train or something. Now it's like I just relax, just sitting there zoning out. It's a lot more comfortable, which is good. Yeah, but none of these small achievements are actually really big achievements, so they're big for me, but in the whole obstacle of things you're supposed to achieve, they're not very big. So you really feel like kind of a degenerate all the time, because it's like, this is really big for me, but everyone thinks I'm really stupid to think that, that's probably a big achievement, So a big achievement's like something much bigger than that. Possibly like getting a job and keeping it for a long time is a big achievement, and having a family or getting married is a big achievement. You know, it's like not hopping on a train and lasting like 30 minutes or an hour without, having any issues. So it doesn't seem like a very big achievement, but for me it is. For me personally it is. Anyway, this has been a nice, relaxing little walk. I bet I can walk up and down that hill too. I probably shouldn't, but I will. Look at that tree, it's nice. It's got flowers. This is just my usual route, but my routes are going to change soon. I was looking at rentals on the weekend. I'm going to do another search today for rentals for like up to $200 for anywhere in the state, and seeing if there are any around. So most places are pretty accessible, but some places really suck because they're so flooded. But once you realize you can put your face in a sink and breathe through a flood, it's okay. There's this 2-bedroom place for $240 near this coastline, near a lake, and it's really peaceful, but it's in a tornado zone or a cyclone zone, so every now and again a cyclone will come along and uproot things, and it'll flood as well, and you're like, I've lived there like twice before. It's so peaceful, but you have to do the flood thing, and you have to the cyclones get you kicked out all the time. So it's like you might rent there for a little while, but then in the end a cyclone might come along. So it's funny that I'm running. I keep thinking I shouldn't be choosing these places because I'm running away from trying to meet a cyclone too, a place that meets a cyclone as well. So I'm not really changing my circumstance really in some ways. I wonder what's here. A big tree. A hole. It's a deep hole. I guess you could slip in there and get injured or something. Same with talking as I'm walking. I used to not be able to talk as I walked, but I'm doing it. Because I used to run out of breath and be like, oh, my heart's going to stop, But I'm talking and I'm walking for over 13 minutes now. The joys of real life. I think I've made so many mistakes in my real life. I was thinking about how I've moved out of the family home many times, and I was thinking I've lived in New South Wales by myself, and I've transported from the north to the south side of New South Wales. No matter where I go, you usually meet some fairly nice people, but it's the difference in rent and prices and houses and things. And I'm like, well, I've lived in weird little country towns that are very remote and only have few people, and it's I bought a house for really cheap at one of them, but they ended up kicking me out. The people mob you, and it's whoever runs the area ends up agreeing to kick you out because no one wants you to live there. And so and sometimes the courts are you've just bought this house, but no one wants you to live there, so we agree to allowing you to vacate on the basis of resale sort of thing. So it's like we agree that you should move out even though you officially own it. And it's like, how is that like court? How can a court deem that when it's your place, you signed for it, it's yours? And then, on the little list, it says, like, it has like, I've apparently had a few abandoned properties or whatever. It's like I've abandoned it, but really the court has, told me to leave it and push me off the premises and things and stuff. And it's like, so I think that's very rude to state something abandoned when it's been court ordered. So it's like, don't I have to like listen to this court order or something? But the worst failing is when I spent $2 million on house and land, and then, the court said, oh, your house is too damaged, you can't live there, and they made the house invisible with magic, and it's still sitting there invisible. It's like, I can't have it. I owned it, and I can't have it. I can't live on it. It's because I bought it, and on this little list, it says like it's like abandoned property when I was ordered off it, sort of thing. So, makes you think, are you actually being told truth, or should you be like noticing that the court can't do that or something, or whatever? So, yeah, so I get very upset about, the way I've bought things, and courts saying you have to go, because nobody wants you in the area or something. So I've been pushed off a few cheap properties. The one on the Gold Coast was expensive. I couldn't afford house insurance. So I took the house insurance and everything else off just to like have it as a property. Then a cyclone came, it damaged it after someone lifted up the windshield over the windows. It tore a hole in the wall. And then it's like, oh, you have to get off the property. And it's like, it's my property, I can do whatever I like with it, sort of thing. And then like the cyclone came back and made an even bigger hole. And it's like, you have to get off the property, And it's like, I don't need to get off this property. You have to get off my property. It's my fucking property, So, it's just gonna go like into someone else's hands anyway. So I don't see why I can't like, have the property anyway, sort of thing. So, but everything about property is dumb, because courts are really wild. I mean, they got, judges who like kill people if they don't, like, apparently every person who fails to win a case gets their heads chopped off or something. It's like the judges are big homicidal losers. And it's like, they, have this, rough side, and then they're like being the judge and jury of fairness and things. And it's like, you just don't know what's actually real, really. Because, it seems like on one side everything's like unlegislative and illegal, and then on the other side it's like, oh, but the judge said that's okay, so it's legal. And then it's like, it seems like judges telling you one thing, oh, you have to get off this property, it's your property, but legally it's your property, and you don't have to get off any fucking property that you own and have signed for. And it's like, so you're always being swayed by illegal tactics, and I think everything's illegal. Really, like, I shouldn't have to abandon or feel like I have to get off a property. Sure enough, the house would have been destroyed if they hadn't turned it invisible, but, it's still my property. It should still be my property and stuff. It's like, and then judges telling me, no, you have to get off your property. I'm like, fuck you, I paid $2 million for the fucking property. I was like, no, I didn't say it like that. I said, but, I own this property. It's my property. I'm like, you have to get off this property. It's like, longer than you. And let them, turn the house invisible so that when they retire in 50, 60 years' time, I think judges sit on the bench for like 150 years or something. It's like, oh, did they get a free house, the $2 million house that I couldn't live in because it's got like its own water pool and that's like 12 miles long and it's got its own marble from top to bottom. It's got a huge attic. It's got that, compensated a huge high ceilings. Looks like, a fun, awesome place just for the judge to save for when they retire and they don't have to pay for the building. They just have to move into this building and have it as a retirement win, So you're like, that's sort of what it seems like, They're just like saving this property for whenever they want to use it or something. It's like it's a little Judge SeaWorld combo saving for them, and they pocketed the fucking construction pocketed my $2 million. So it's like unfair that my little step is someone else's like retirement plan for the 100 future, Unfair. And they should have gotten a guy who lifted up the windshields to be like all hippie and like yell at the cyclists outside the window. It's like they should have got him and his family and his workplaces to full on pay for it and everything. It's like even if they're dead, their family should have been fit the bill because that's how extensive the damage was. And it's like unfair for me to fit, like buy another house to fix it up. I have to pay like $550,000. And how are you going to do that? Wind blow. So it's unfair for me. I mean, it's like, oh, just leave it sit there for whoever wants it. Probably people are turning it invisible. It's a little invisible trick that they're going to save for later for them. How annoying is that? Can't even sell my $550,000 land because, probably by now officially, I probably really don't own it because I haven't been paying, the land rates or whatever, But it's all very unfair. I think everything is unfair. You're just lucky I didn't full on earn that money and just had a lucky I was swallowing someone else's money. And otherwise I'd be completely devastated. I just had a lucky buyer and it's something that I'd won. So you're lucky I didn't full on earn that money. Because I would have been crushed. So it's more like a win money. And I was like, oh, I've lost. I wasn't very smart though, I guess. I mean, I had the right ideas inside my mind, but I was like being coaxed off them. So, but that's what I was originally saying. I've bought property in New South Wales, like in many different places. And they're okay, but I was budged off them. But yeah. Anyway, I was thinking about all this stuff that I did like ages ago in the country. I met people. Always had a romance with a country western singer. Met someone who I knew at school and hung out at their farm for like a day. Well, they're actually having an argument with their mom, and it's like, and then the storm came in, and it's like all this water poured out and ended up being swept away down the road. And I was like walking back drenched in water, and it's like, I had to sort of collect my bags and leave. So, I had that experience. I rented in a flat, and people were threatening me, so I had to move out of it. Then I tried to live in various other places in the same country town. And I think eventually I was kicked out of the town because I was venturing to too many places and getting issues people just didn't want me around. So I think I was officially kicked out, and then I was sort of venturing down the coast towards the south side, because I started at, I think, Uralla. I think it was Uralla, somewhere towards Tamworth. So I think I even stayed in Tamworth for a little while, and then it wasn't Uralla. It was probably something, maybe Gyre. No. Anyway, I need to look at a map. Anyway, so I started like towards Tamworth way, then I ended up down in Dubbo, and it's like, thankfully everything's still pretty normal in country. Like, I was paying rent on my little home telephone job and stuff, because it was so cheap. It was like, $100 in a week and things, and it's like, it's so good for a person who doesn't really have any money. But I was seeking like the cheapest rentals in the whole entire coast, and I was like, oh, let's go to Dubbo, It was actually a really good stay, but they kicked me out after my term was up. They kicked me out because it floods there, and they didn't really like me staying in this tiny little apartment. I was combating the floods using my military tactics that I'd learnt up here. I was like, so if I was ever like really needing to go on my own again, that's what you do. You go to the cheapest places. Everyone's pretty kind, even in the most barren areas. So you meet a lot of good people everywhere, and it's like, for me, who always is like someone who can feel unsafe very quickly, like I was going through all these places, like pretty cheap, and it was really good, experience. Sure enough, you meet a drunk every now and again, but most of the times you just like, it's pretty good, it's not scary at all. Like, you live there, it's like, oh, this is actually really good. Like, I can't believe like a really cheap place is so good. So if I'm ever on my own again, stuff, I was thinking, I have all these memories that things that I barely remember, because I didn't have Facebook then, and wasn't doing posts or wherever I've lived. I lived in heaps of places, and I bought heaps of places and things. And it's like, if ever I'm alone again, that's sort of what you do. Just live at these places, and you find that floods are the hugest thing. I've never been caught in a bushfire zone, thankfully. I think I did when I was living at Bateman's Bay. I think we ended up on a beach because there were fires around, and there were like water bombers in the sky and things. I don't know though if that was when I was living there or whether I was on vacation. I think I was living in Bateman's Bay for a little while. I bought this like pretty cheap house, and once again, tornado cyclones came along and rattled the area, and I couldn't afford it, but for when I was living, it was okay. Yeah. I've lived in heaps of places. I lived in a weird New South Wales cul-de-sac. It was all new. I think I lived there, or I inspected property. I'm pretty sure I lived there for a little while, but it got expensive. Yeah. So like I'm thinking, well, if I ever have to rucksack everything again, and live anywhere, it's like, yeah, you can do it. You just do it. You probably meet a pretty good community. You just do it. It's like, screw that, I'm just gonna go country. So, saying that, there's probably heaps of fairly cheap places somewhere up here. So I'm going to do that new search today just in case I've missed out on things that are pretty cheap. I'm looking for under $200 for a 1 or 2 bedroom house, preferably, because I've got heaps of stuff that I need to shove into a garage. I've got a whole house full of stuff because I don't like spending $300 a week. I mean, if I get a job tomorrow, because I'm doing an interview tomorrow for this work from home position, if I get that job and maybe another one, that's going to give me heaps of money to move around with. So, and I should do it while my parents go into the Daryl zone, where she's not going to make the necessary improvements to safeguard her house against wild storms. So it is a wild storm zone, and it's like, yeah. Back at home, so, but I do sort of want to go to the country, but I kind of don't. But at first it's going to be real Daryl, so I'm doing myself a favor to go rent for 6 to 12 months anyways, and leave them to do up the house, because it's stinky, because it probably flooded sometime, and needs to have new carpets, new painted walls, and everything. Oh, look at that! Look what happened. New painted walls and stuff, and it's like, it's going to be really gross at first, but after a month it should be looking a lot better. I'm just worried. Yeah, so anyway, I guess things will come clearer. That's what I'm doing today, right after I have breakfast, because I've just come back from my walk and I am super hungry.